My name is Elena Parker, and I was 16 years old when my stepmother threw my clothes into garbage bags and told me I had 2 hours to get out of the house my father built. It was 3 weeks after his funeral. 3 weeks after we buried the only parent I had left. 3 weeks after I became an orphan with nowhere to go and no one to protect me. "You are not his real daughter," Christine said, standing in the doorway of my bedroom with her arms crossed. Her face was calm, almost bored, like she was telling me to take out the trash instead of destroying my entire life. "Your father felt sorry for you after your mother abandoned you, but that does not make you family. This house belongs to me now. Everything belongs to me. And I do not want you here." I stared at her, my hands frozen on the physics textbook I had been studying for my exam. "What are you talking about? Dad adopted me legally. This is my home. These are my things." "Were your things," Christine corrected, her red lips curving into something that was not quite a smile. "I found your father's will last night. Turns out he left everything to me, the house, the business, the bank accounts, all of it. There is a small trust fund for your education, but that does not give you the right to live here. You are 16. Old enough to figure things out. I had to work from the time I was 14. Consider this a life lesson." "You are lying," I said, my voice shaking. "Dad would never leave me with nothing. He promised. After Mom left, he promised I would always have a home." "Your father made a lot of promises he could not keep," Christine said. "Now pack your things. You have 2 hours. After that, I am calling the police and telling them you are trespassing." I wanted to scream. To fight. To call her a liar to her face. But I was 16 years old and she was a 40-year-old woman with lawyers and money and a will that apparently gave her everything. What was I supposed to do? So I packed. I stuffed clothes into garbage bags because Christine would not let me take the expensive luggage my father had bought me for our trip to Europe that we never got to take. I packed my books, my laptop, the photo albums of my mother and father, the jewelry my dad had given me on birthdays and holidays. Christine stood in the hallway the entire time, watching with those cold blue eyes, making sure I did not take anything she considered hers. "The jewelry stays," she said when she saw me putting my grandmother's necklace into my bag. "That belonged to your father's mother. It is a family heirloom. You are not family." "My dad gave it to me on my 13th birthday," I said, my hands shaking as I held the delicate silver chain. "He said Grandma would have wanted me to have it." "I do not care what he said. Put it back." When I hesitated, Christine's voice turned sharp. "Put it back or I call the police right now and have you removed for theft." I put it back. I put back the necklace, the bracelet, the earrings my father had given me. I put back the expensive camera he had bought me when I said I wanted to be a photographer. I put back everything Christine decided was too valuable for someone like me. By the time I dragged my garbage bags down the stairs, I barely had anything left. My clothes. Some books. My laptop. A shoebox full of photos. That was it. That was all I had left of 17 years of life. Where am I supposed to go? I asked as Christine opened the front door. "That is not my problem," she said. "Maybe you have friends who will take you in. Maybe you can find a shelter. I really do not care, Elena. I just want you gone." I stood on the porch of the house I grew up in, the house where my father had carried me over the threshold when I was 5 years old and told me I would always be safe here, and I watched Christine close the door in my face. I heard the lock click. Heard her heels clicking on the hardwood floor as she walked away. And I realized that the woman my father had married, the woman he had trusted to take care of me if anything happened to him, had just thrown me away like garbage. I dragged my bags to the end of the driveway and sat down on the curb. It was October, cold enough that I could see my breath, and I had nowhere to go. My best friend Maya had moved to California over the summer. My other friends had families of their own, families who were dealing with their own problems. I could not just show up and ask to move in. I pulled out my phone and stared at the screen, trying to figure out who to call. That is when I realized something that made my stomach drop. Christine had canceled my phone plan. My phone still worked on Wi-Fi, but I had no service. No way to call anyone unless I found a Wi-Fi connection. I wanted to cry. Part of me did cry, sitting there on the curb with my garbage bags full of clothes and my dead phone in my hand. But another part of me, the part that had survived my mother walking out when I was 5, the part that had learned to be strong because my father taught me that strength was the only way to survive, that part started to get angry. Christine thought she could throw me away. Thought she could steal my father's legacy and my home and my future. Thought I was just some scared kid who would disappear quietly and never fight back. She was wrong. I was not going to disappear. I was going to survive. And someday, somehow, I was going to make her pay for every single thing she took from me. I picked up my bags and started walking. I walked 6 blocks to the public library, where I knew they had Wi-Fi and computers and hours that stretched into the evening. I walked through the doors and headed straight for the computers, logging into my email account to see if there was anyone at all, who could help me. That is when I found it. An email from my father's lawyer, Mr. Harrison, dated 2 days before my father died. The subject line said, "Important, please read immediately." My hands shook as I opened it. "Elena, I am emailing this to your personal account because I want to make sure you receive it. I have prepared documents that ensure you will be taken care of if anything happens to me. Your trust fund is secure and cannot be touched by anyone except you when you turn 18. The house is in a trust that names you as the beneficiary. Christine believes she inherits everything, but that is not true. I love you, sweetheart. You are my daughter in every way that matters. Always remember that. Dad." I read it 3 times. Then 5 times. Then I printed it out because I needed to see it on paper to believe it was real. My father had not left me with nothing. He had protected me. Set up trusts and legal protections to make sure Christine could not take everything. Which meant she was lying when she said he left it all to her. Which meant she was stealing from me. I grabbed my bags and half walked, half ran to Mr. Harrison's office. It was after 5, but I banged on the glass door until the security guard came out. "I need to see Mr. Harrison," I said, out of breath. "It is an emergency. Please." "It is about my father, Robert Parker." The security guard looked at me, 16 years old, crying, holding garbage bags, and something in his face softened. "Wait here." He went inside and a few minutes later, Mr. Harrison appeared. He was in his 60s, gray-haired and tired-looking, but when he saw me his eyes widened. "Elena? What are you doing here? What happened?" He looked at my garbage bags. "Why do you have luggage?" "Christine kicked me out," I said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "She said Dad left everything to her. She gave me 2 hours to pack and threw me out. But I found your email. The one Dad sent before he died. You said he set up trusts. You said the house was protected. Was that true? Did my dad really leave me something, or was she telling the truth?" Mr. Harrison's face went pale, then red, then pale again. "Come inside. Right now." He practically dragged me into his office, told the security guard to lock the door behind us, and sat me down in a leather chair. "Elena, did Christine show you your father's will?" "She said she found it last night. She said everything went to her." "She is lying," Mr. Harrison said, and his voice was shaking with anger. "Your father's will explicitly states that the house goes into a trust for you until you turn 21. Christine gets to live there as long as she maintains it and does not sell it, but the moment you turn 21, it transfers to you. She also receives a monthly allowance from your father's estate, but the bulk of his assets, the business, the investments, the savings, are held in trust for you. She is entitled to stay in the house and receive support, but she does not own anything. Everything belongs to you." I felt like I could not breathe. So she just lied? She threw me out even though she had no legal right? "She committed fraud," Mr. Harrison said. And possibly embezzlement if she has been accessing your trust funds. Elena, I need to ask you something very important. Has Christine been acting as your legal guardian since your father died? I guess so. I mean, I have been living in the house. She has been. I do not know. Ignoring me, mostly. She should have filed guardianship papers. She should have informed the court that she was taking responsibility for a minor child. If she did not do that, then she essentially abandoned you, which is criminal neglect. He grabbed a notepad and started writing. I am going to file an emergency motion first thing tomorrow morning. We are going to get you back in that house, get Christine removed as your guardian, and start an investigation into what she has been doing with your father's estate. But tonight, you need a safe place to stay. Do you have any family? Friends? I shook my head. No one close enough. Everyone I know is dealing with their own problems. I do not want to be a burden. Mr. Harrison looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. My daughter is about your age. She is away at college, so her room is empty. You can stay with my wife and me until we sort this out. It is not ideal, lawyers are not supposed to house their clients, but I am not leaving you on the street. Your father trusted me to protect you. That is exactly what I am going to do. I started crying then. Real, ugly crying, the kind where you cannot catch your breath and your whole body shakes. Because for the first time in 3 weeks, since my father died and left me alone in the world, someone was actually trying to help me. Someone was telling me I was not crazy. That Christine was wrong. That I had been robbed and lied to and I deserved justice. Mr. Harrison let me cry, handed me tissues, and promised me that everything was going to be okay. I did not entirely believe him. But I wanted to. That night, I slept in a stranger's guest room, in his daughter's bed, surrounded by posters of bands I did not know and books I had never read. Mrs. Harrison, a kind woman with warm eyes who reminded me a little of my grandmother, brought me hot chocolate and asked if I needed anything. I told her I just needed to sleep. But I did not sleep. I lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, replaying Christine's words in my head. You are not family. This does not belong to you. Get out. I thought about my father, about how he had fought cancer for 3 years, about how he had kept working even when he was exhausted and sick because he wanted to make sure I would be taken care of. About how he had married Christine because he thought he was dying and did not want me to be alone. About how his biggest fear was that something would happen to him and I would have no one. He had tried so hard to protect me. And Christine had destroyed all of it 3 weeks after his funeral. As the sun started to rise, I made myself a promise. I was going to survive this. I was going to get back everything she took from me. And I was going to make absolutely sure that Christine paid for what she had done. Not just to me, but to my father's memory. The emergency hearing was scheduled for 2 days later. Mr. Harrison filed motions with the family court, requesting an immediate investigation into Christine's guardianship, or lack thereof, and demanding access to all financial records related to my father's estate. Christine showed up with her own lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit who kept calling me, the girl, like I did not have a name. They argued that I was a troubled teenager, that I had run away from home, that Christine had every right to set boundaries about my behavior. Your Honor, Mr. Harrison said, his voice steady and strong, Elena did not run away. She was forcibly removed from her home by Mrs. Parker, who told her she had 2 hours to pack her belongings and leave. Elena is 16 years old. She is a minor. Mrs. Parker has a legal obligation to care for her, an obligation she violated when she threw her out with nowhere to go. Mrs. Parker had every right to discipline the child, Christine's lawyer argued. The girl was disrespectful and... The girl has a name, the judge interrupted, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who looked like she did not tolerate nonsense. Her name is Elena Parker. Use it. Christine's lawyer cleared his throat. Elena was disrespectful and refusing to follow household rules. Mrs. Parker was attempting to teach her responsibility. By making her homeless, the judge asked, her eyebrows raised. Mrs. Parker, did you kick Elena out of the house? Christine stood up, smoothing her designer dress. She looked perfect, hair styled, makeup flawless, jewelry sparkling. She looked like a grieving widow, not a woman who had thrown her dead husband's daughter onto the street. Your Honor, I was trying to help Elena grow up. She is almost 17. She needs to learn that actions have consequences. I told her she could come back once she was ready to apologize and follow the rules. What rules did she break? The judge asked. Christine hesitated. She was disrespectful. Talking back. Staying out late. I was at the library, I said, unable to stay quiet. Studying. I have exams. I have never broken curfew. I have never been in trouble. She is lying. Elena, please let your lawyer speak for you, the judge said, but her tone was not unkind. She turned back to Christine. Mrs. Parker, did you file for legal guardianship of Elena after your husband died? No. I assumed I automatically became her guardian since I am her stepmother. That is not how guardianship works, the judge said. You had a legal obligation to file the appropriate paperwork and be appointed by this court. Since you did not do that, you have no legal authority over Elena. Which means when you forced her to leave your home, you abandoned a minor child. Do you understand how serious that is? Christine's face went white. Her lawyer whispered something to her urgently. Your Honor, there was clearly a miscommunication. My client did not understand the legal requirements. She is willing to allow Elena to return home immediately, Anne. I am sure she is, the judge said dryly. Now that she realizes she broke the law. But I am not inclined to place Elena back in a home where she was already kicked out once. Not until I understand what is really going on here. She looked at Mr. Harrison. You mentioned concerns about the estate. Yes, Your Honor. Robert Parker's will explicitly states that his primary residence is held in trust for Elena until she turns 21. Christine Parker has the right to live there but not to sell it or make any changes without trustee approval. She also does not have the right to exclude Elena from the property. Additionally, there are concerns that Mrs. Parker may have been accessing Elena's trust funds without authorization. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Parker, have you been living in the house at 428 Maple Drive? Yes, of course. It is my home. Have you been making mortgage payments? Christine hesitated. The house is paid off. Have you been paying property taxes? Utilities? Maintenance? Yes, Christine stopped, looking at her lawyer. Using what funds? The judge asked. You told this court you are unemployed and living off your late husband's estate. If you do not have independent income, where is the money coming from to maintain that house? Christine's lawyer jumped in. Mrs. Parker is the beneficiary of her late husband's life insurance policy, Anne. I have the will right here, Mr. Harrison interrupted, holding up a document. Robert Parker's life insurance was split, half to Elena's education trust, half to a general estate account meant to cover household expenses until Elena turns 21. If Mrs. Parker has been withdrawing from that account for personal use beyond basic household maintenance, she has been stealing from Elena's inheritance. The judge was quiet for a long moment, reading through documents that Mr. Harrison handed her. Finally, she looked up. I am ordering a full forensic audit of Robert Parker's estate, all associated accounts, and any expenditures made by Christine Parker since his death. Until that audit is complete, Mrs. Parker, you are not to access any accounts connected to your late husband except for a basic household allowance, which this court will set. Elena will remain in temporary foster care. Mr. Harrison, I understand you and your wife have been housing her? Yes, Your Honor. We are willing to continue doing so until a permanent solution is found. Good. I am also appointing a guardian ad litem to represent Elena's interests while we sort this out. We will reconvene in 30 days to review the audit findings. The judge looked directly at Christine, and her expression was ice cold. Mrs. Parker, if this audit reveals that you have been misappropriating funds that belong to Elena, you will face criminal charges. Do you understand? Christine nodded, her face pale. As we left the courtroom, I saw her whispering urgently with her lawyer. She looked angry and scared, and I felt a dark satisfaction bloom in my chest. She thought she could throw me away. Thought she could take everything and I would just disappear. Now she was realizing that I was not going away. That I was going to fight. That I was going to take back everything she stole. The audit took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of living with the Harrisons, going to school, trying to act normal while my entire world was being dissected by forensic accountants. 6 weeks of waiting to find out exactly how badly Christine had betrayed me. When the results came back, Mr. Harrison called me into his office. His face was grim. "Elena, sit down. I need to show you something." He opened a folder filled with bank statements and highlighted transactions. "Your father left you approximately $2 million in various accounts and trusts. The house is worth another $1 million. He had investments, a life insurance policy, and ownership in his business. Altogether, you should have inherited close to $5 million. My hand started shaking. Should have? Christine has stolen approximately $800,000 over the past 4 months. She bought herself a new car, a Range Rover, $75,000. She renovated the master bedroom, $60,000. She has been taking shopping trips, eating at expensive restaurants, buying jewelry. All of it charged to accounts that were supposed to be held in trust for you." I could not breathe. $800,000. She stole $800,000 from me. She also attempted to sell your father's business. She found a buyer willing to pay $1.5 million, and she was 3 days away from closing the deal when I got a court order to stop it. If I had not filed that emergency motion, if you had not come to me when you did, she would have sold everything and disappeared with the money. What happens now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Now she goes to prison, Mr. Harrison said. The district attorney is filing criminal charges: fraud, embezzlement, theft, criminal neglect of a minor. Christine is facing 10 to 20 years. And we are filing a civil lawsuit to recover every penny she stole, plus damages. I thought I would feel triumphant. Victorious. But instead, I just felt tired. I just want my life back. I want to go home. You will, Mr. Harrison promised. The judge is going to award you full control of your assets when you turn 18. Until then, I will be appointed as your legal guardian and trustee. You will live in your father's house. You will have access to funds for school, living expenses, anything you need. Christine will be gone. This will all be over. But it was not over. Not really. Because even though Christine was arrested, even though she was charged with multiple felonies, even though she lost everything, she fought. Her lawyers argued that she had not understood the terms of the will. That she thought she was entitled to the money. That she had made mistakes but had not intended to steal. They painted her as a grieving widow who had been confused and overwhelmed, not a calculating thief who had thrown her dead husband's daughter onto the street. The trial lasted 3 months. I testified about the day she kicked me out. About how she had taken my grandmother's necklace and told me I was not family. About how she had looked me in the eye and lied about my father's will. Christine's lawyers tried to make me look like a troubled teenager, like someone who was exaggerating or lying for attention. But the financial records did not lie. The audit did not lie. The email from my father did not lie. In the end, the jury found her guilty on every count. Christine was sentenced to 12 years in prison. The judge, the same woman who had presided over the emergency hearing, looked at Christine and said something I will never forget. You took advantage of a grieving child. You stole from someone who trusted you. You betrayed the memory of a man who loved you and tried to provide for his daughter even after his death. You do not deserve mercy. Christine started crying, loud, dramatic sobs that might have worked on someone who did not know what she really was. But I knew. And so did everyone else in that courtroom. As they led her away in handcuffs, she looked at me one last time. And I looked right back. No tears. No fear. Just cold, hard satisfaction. She had tried to destroy me. And I had destroyed her instead. I moved back into my father's house 2 weeks before my 17th birthday. Mr. Harrison helped me change the locks, clean out Christine's belongings, and make the space mine again. Walking through those rooms, touching the furniture my father had chosen, standing in the kitchen where he had made me breakfast every Sunday morning, it hurt. But it also felt right. Like I was reclaiming something that had always belonged to me. I found my grandmother's necklace in Christine's jewelry box, along with all the other things she had taken from me. I put the necklace on and promised myself I would never take it off. The civil lawsuit recovered most of the money Christine had stolen. The Range Rover was sold. The jewelry was liquidated. By the time everything was settled, I had recovered about $600,000 of the $800,000 she had taken. It was not perfect, but it was enough. More than enough. I finished high school at the top of my class. Got accepted to every college I applied to. Chose to study business and law because I never wanted to be helpless again. Never wanted to be the scared 16-year-old girl with garbage bags full of clothes and nowhere to go. 10 years after Christine went to prison, I got a letter. She was up for parole and wanted me to write a letter supporting her release. She said she was sorry. That she had made mistakes. That she had been grief-stricken and confused after my father died. That she hoped I could forgive her. I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat down and wrote my response. I told the parole board about the day she kicked me out. About how she stole from me. About how she looked me in the eye and told me I was not family. About how she had tried to sell my father's business and steal my entire inheritance. I told them that Christine was not sorry. She was just tired of prison. That given the chance, she would do it all again. The parole board denied her release. She would serve her full sentence. When I got the notification, I did not feel happy or sad. I just felt complete. Like a chapter of my life had finally closed. I was 26 years old. I had a master's degree in business. I was running my father's company, the one Christine had tried to sell, and I had grown it into something 3 times its original size. I had the house. The legacy. The life my father had wanted me to have. And Christine had nothing. No freedom. No money. No family. Nothing but 12 years of regret and the knowledge that the girl she threw away had become the woman who made sure she paid for every single thing she stole. Sometimes people ask me if I regret going after Christine so hard. If I think 12 years in prison was too much. And I always tell them the same thing. She did not just steal money. She stole my home, my security, my childhood. She threw me out 3 weeks after my father died, when I was grieving and vulnerable and alone. She thought I was weak. Thought I would disappear. Thought I would never fight back. She was wrong. And I made absolutely sure she would never forget it. My name is Elena Parker. I was 16 years old when my stepmother kicked me out with nothing but garbage bags full of clothes and a lie about my father's will. Now I am 26, successful, and living in the house she tried to steal from me. And Christine? She is in prison, exactly where she belongs. That is not revenge. That is justice. And I would do it all over again.